You see them everywhere. On the ledges above shop windows, along the gutters of old buildings, in the loose gray flocks that drift across the afternoon sky. They are one of the most familiar sights in the world. And then, almost without warning, they are gone. The square is empty. The ledge is bare. The streets below quieter in a way you can't quite name. Somewhere between the last warmth of the day and the first real dark of night, they simply vanish. Not dramatically, not all at once. They fade, like something that was never fully solid to begin with. Where do they go? Most people never ask. Most people never notice. And that, it turns out, is exactly the point. Because what pigeons do after dark is one of the most overlooked stories in any city. Not a small story, an immense one. A story happening just above your head every night of your life. The reality of where pigeons go after dark is stranger and more extraordinary than almost anyone realizes. The disappearance. There is a precise moment. It lasts only minutes. When a pigeon flock makes its decision. Somewhere in the late afternoon, the angle of light shifts. Shadows stretch long across the pavement. The temperature begins, almost imperceptibly, to fall. And in that window, something changes in the birds. The foraging stops. The small disputes over scraps near cafe tables, over a dropped chip, a spilled crumb, lose urgency. One bird lifts, then another. Then the sky above the square briefly fills with the sound of wings, a sound that belongs to that specific hour more than any other, and then they are gone. Not south, not far, just up. This is the part most people misunderstand. We expect migration. We expect distance. But pigeons in cities do not travel far at dusk. Their movement is vertical, not horizontal. They rise. They find the hidden geometry of the city, the places no human eye tends to follow, and they disappear into it for most of human history. People shared their cities with pigeons and watched them vanish every evening without ever quite knowing where they went. The birds moved in plain sight, into a world that exists in full view but is almost never seen. The hidden city above. If you could follow a pigeon at dusk not on foot, but eye level, rising with it above the streets, the city would look completely different. From above, a dense urban neighborhood is not a maze of streets and shop fronts. It is a landscape of platforms and walls, of thermal pockets and wind channels, of concrete cliffs and sheltered overhangs. It is, for a pigeon, a mountain range. And pigeons are cliff birds. Their ancestor, the rock dove, evolved on the coastal cliffs and inland crags of Europe, North Africa, and South Asia. Narrow ledges were home. The hollow face of a sandstone outcrop was shelter. The logic of the city, when the first rock doves arrived in human settlements thousands of years ago, would have felt eerily familiar. A building is a cliff. A bridge underpass is a cave. A rooftop parapet is a ledge above a valley floor. The city did not tame the pigeon. The city accidentally rebuilt the pigeon's home. And so at dusk, the birds go back to it. They select their roost sites with care, a sheltered ledge on the north face of a Victorian warehouse, invisible from the street below. A narrow channel between two industrial buildings where the wind barely reaches and the brick retains warmth long after sunset. The underside of a bridge arch where the concrete holds a dry, still pocket of air above a dark river. These sites have been used, in some cases, for generations. The same ledge, the same overhang, occupied every night by birds whose grandparents roost there before them. The city changes, the warehouse becomes a converted loft, the bridge gets repainted, new streetlights flicker on below, but the ledge endures. And every evening, the birds return to it like a word repeated so many times it has become part of the language. What happens on a rooftop pigeon roost at night is not nothing. It is not sleep in the way we imagine sleep, quiet, flat, still. It is something more complex, more social, more alive. Pigeons are intensely hierarchical birds. The most sheltered spot on a roost ledge where the wind is least, where the surface is warmest, where the overhang above is deepest belongs to the dominant birds. They claim it not through aggression, exactly, but through presence and displacement, a constant slow negotiation that continues even as darkness falls. The young birds, the newcomers, the low-ranking individuals are pushed toward the exposed end of the ledge, where the temperature is lower and the rain, when it comes, arrives first. And yet even the exposed end is chosen, because the alternative, roosting alone, away from the group is worse. Safety in numbers is not a cliché for a bird that lives under open sky. It is arithmetic. A peregrine hunting the rooftops cannot take every bird at once. The mathematics of the flock, the sheer density of wings and eyes, and alerted nervous systems, reduces each individual's odds. To be part of a roost is to trade a little warmth for a great deal of survival. The cold edge of the ledge, it turns out, is still worth having. In winter, the arithmetic shifts further. Pigeons roosting together do not simply share the ledge, they share heat. A dense cluster of resting birds creates a microclimate of its own, the collective warmth of many bodies raising the temperature at the center of the group by several degrees. They press together, feathers against feathers, heads tucked into the warmth of their own chests, that precise fold of neck that seals the most exposed skin from the air. And then something else happens that almost no one who watches pigeons in daylight would ever guess. Their body temperature drops. Deliberately, biologically, precisely. Not to a dangerous level, not to the edge of hypothermia, but to a temperature several degrees below their normal active warmth. It is controlled, calculated. The body slowing down its own engine, reducing the fuel it needs to burn through the long dark hours before dawn. There is a phenomenon that birds possess and humans can only approximate. It is called unihemispheric sleep, the ability to keep one eye open and one half of the brain awake while the other half rests. We have documented it in ducks, in dolphins, in certain seals, and some songbirds. And in the pigeon, roosting on a cold city ledge in November, it is a survival tool of extraordinary elegance. When a pigeon sleeps at the edge of a roost, in the exposed position, pressed against the open air, it does not fully surrender to unconsciousness. One hemisphere of its brain cycles down into sleep. The other remains in a state of low-level vigilance. The open eye watches the darkness. The closed eye is somewhere else entirely, half dreaming, half watching the sky. If something moves in the dark, the silent drop of a hunting owl, the flicker of a falcon's silhouette against a lit window, the open eye processes it. The waking hemisphere responds. The sleeping half is recalled to consciousness in an instant. The entire roost can be airborne before the predator has completed its stoop. Birds at the center of the roost, more protected, more trusted by their own nervous systems, allow themselves to sleep with both eyes closed, both hemispheres down. A deeper rest earned by position and seniority. The outermost birds stand watch so the innermost ones can truly sleep. This is the real structure of the roost. Not just warmth, not just numbers. A distributed system of vigilance stretched across every body on the ledge, a collective nervous system that belongs to no single bird. The roost is not a gathering place. It is an organism. But not all of them stay. Even among city pigeons, birds that have lived within a few square kilometers their entire lives, birds that have never seen a cliff or a field, some are restless in ways that have nothing to do with predators or cold. There are nights, particularly in autumn and early spring, when birds leave the roost long before dawn. Not for food. There is no food before first light. Not for warmth. They are leaving warmth behind. They rise above the city and begin to move. To where? Even the birds, perhaps, do not know. This is the residue of something ancient. The wild rock dove of the Mediterranean coastline is not, technically, a migratory bird, but it is a bird that moves between cliffs and feeding grounds, between coast and inland plateau. The instinct to move at certain times of year runs deep in avian biology, inherited across millions of years, and it does not switch off cleanly in a bird that finds itself on a city rooftop instead of a limestone crag. Some of these nocturnal movements in urban pigeons are short, a few kilometers, crossing from one burrow to another, navigating by the lights of the city below. The same magnetic sensitivity that allows a racing pigeon to cross a continent turns the illuminated grid of a city at night into something legible. The river, reflecting light differently from the buildings around it. The dark island of a park, a shadow in the glow. The radio mast at the city's edge, pulsing its slow signal into the dark. Pigeons read all of this. They have always read things we cannot see. And above them, far above, in the dark band of air between the rooftops and the clouds, something else is moving. Every night from late summer through late autumn and again through spring, billions of birds migrate across the night sky above cities that are mostly asleep. Warblers, thrushes, Flycatchers. Birds crossing from Scandinavia to West Africa. Birds from the Siberian taiga heading for the equatorial forests. They do not land. They do not stop. They are simply there, in the dark above the sodium glow of the streetlights, present and passing and utterly invisible to the people below. The sky above any sleeping city is full of birds no one sees. On the worst nights, the nights of hard November rain, of wind that shakes the loose sheet metal on old buildings and sends plastic bags spiraling up between the towers, the pigeons sit very still. They have turned to face into the wind. This is deliberate. By aligning their bodies with the direction the wind is coming from, they reduce the force pushing against their feathers, minimize the cold that works its way into the gaps between plumes. Their feathers have been drawn tight, each barb of each feather zipped closed by the microscopic hooks that make a feather, at its finest, nearly waterproof. The rain hits and runs. The cold is resisted. This is not endurance in the way we romanticize endurance. It is engineering. Their feet grip the ledge with the automatic, unconscious certainty of a clenched fist. The tendon that runs through a bird's leg is designed to tighten passively as the leg bends. The simple act of crouching on a perch locks the toes closed without any muscular effort at all. A sleeping pigeon cannot fall from its ledge, even if it loses consciousness entirely. It is mechanically fixed in place. The storm passes. The rain eases. The temperature drops another degree. And the birds remain, small and gray and almost invisible against the wet concrete of a city that has decided, for these few hours, to be dark and empty and cold. What they are waiting for, what the whole long architecture of the night is oriented toward, is a particular quality of light. Not warmth, not sound. Light. The first gray-blue edge of dawn on the eastern horizon, invisible to the human eye for many minutes before it becomes apparent to consciousness. Pigeons see it long before we do. Their eyes hold photoreceptors tuned to wavelengths of light beyond the range of our perception. The dark is not as dark to them as it is to us. And the dawn is not as sudden. Think about what it means to walk through a city at night and believe it empty. The streets are quiet. The cafes dark. The squares where the pigeons feed all day are bare and swept by wind and lit by the indifferent orange of the street lamps. It looks like a city at rest. It looks like nothing is happening. But above you, 15 meters, 20, 30, a ledge on the side of a building that you have walked past 1,000 times holds 24 birds pressed together in the dark. They are breathing. They are watching, some of them, with one calm eye. Their feathers are performing feats of thermal engineering that no human material has quite managed to replicate. Their nervous systems are distributed across a collective body that sleeps and watches simultaneously. Their hearts are beating, slower than yours, in bodies that have cooled themselves precisely to survive the night that surrounds them. And 200 meters higher still, something is crossing the sky, a warbler the size of your fist, navigating by stars and magnetic field lines, and the invisible map carried in the cells of its brain, traveling from somewhere you have never been toward somewhere it has never seen. It will not land. It will not stop. By morning it will be over the sea. The night city is not empty. It has never been empty. It simply became invisible at the threshold of what our eyes could follow. This is what the pigeons know that we have forgotten. There is no such thing as an empty sky. There is only sky we have stopped looking at. And above every city, every town, every lamplit square where the birds fed at noon and then vanished without explanation, the world continues. Unseen, patient, alive in the dark. Tomorrow morning, before you have fully woken up, a pigeon will lift from its ledge into a sky the color of ash and pewter. It will be the first thing moving above your street, and it will have been there all along, perched above the city in the dark, waiting for this exact quality of light, as it has every night of its life, and as its kind has every night for thousands of years in this city that it knows, in ways we don't quite have language for, as home. They were never gone. You simply lost sight of them at the edge of what daylight allows us to see.